So, a lot of you really liked the last video on Nabonidus, and many of you wanted more, so I'm happy to oblige. This time, we're going to take a look at someone from the same time period, actually a bit before, and was also very closely related to Nabonidus himself. On this stela fragment is one of the most remarkable documents to survive from the ancient world. The story of a woman, told supposedly in her own voice, and carved into stone more than 2,500 years ago. Her name was Adad-guppi, and she was the mother of Nabonidus, the last native king of Babylon. By her own account, she lived to the ripe old age of 104, across the reigns of at least 4 kings, the fall of one empire, and the dramatic rise of several others. Her funerary stela, set up at the ancient city of Harran, opens like this. I am Adad-guppi, mother of Nabonidus, king of Babylon, the one who reveres the deities Sin, Ningal, Nishku, and Sardar Nuna, my gods, whose divinity I have constantly sought out since my childhood. Adad-guppi came from Harran, a city today in southern Turkey near the modern Syrian border. Harran was home to the Ehulhul, one of the most important temples dedicated to the worship of the moon god, Sin, also pronounced Suin. This is the same deity as the Sumerian Nana, the patron god of the city of Ur, and for whom King Ur-Nammu constructed that city's great ziggurat. Adad-guppi was born, as she tells us, in the 20th year of the Assyrian king, Ashurbanipal. In her own lifetime, she watched the Assyrian Empire collapse, and she frames that catastrophe in the language of her faith, as the moon god abandoning his own city. The stela tells us, because in the 16th year of Nabopolassar, king of Babylon, the god Sin, king of the gods, became angry with his city and his temple, and went up to heaven. The city and the people living inside it fell into ruins. So, a little context. By the late 7th century BC, Harran had become one of the Neo-Assyrian Empire's most important cities. After the fall of the Assyrian capital of Nineveh in 612 BC, the last Assyrian king, Ashur-uballit II, established his court at Harran, making it the empire's final stronghold and the center of its desperate resistance against the advancing Babylonian king, Nabopolassar, and his Median allies. Assyrian resistance ultimately failed. Harran fell to the Babylonians and Medes in 610 BC, and a joint Assyrian-Egyptian attempt to retake the city the following year, in 609 BC, ended in defeat, marking the effective end of the Neo-Assyrian Empire. Against this backdrop of military catastrophe and political collapse, Adad-guppi's claim that Sin had abandoned his temple takes on added significance. The god's departure symbolized the apparent withdrawal of divine protection from the last stronghold of Assyria. Her religious devotion, by her telling, was total and deliberately austere. What follows is one of the most human passages of the stela. It goes like this. On account of the fact that I have constantly sought out the sanctuaries of the deities Sin, Ningal, Nushku, and Sardarnuna, worshipping their great divinity, I grasped the helm of the god Sin, king of the gods, and constantly sought out his great divinity night and day. Daily, without ceasing, I was the one who reveres the deities Sin, Shamash, Ishtar, and Adad, as long as I was alive, in heaven and on earth. I did not allow a garment of fine wool, jewelry of silver or gold, new clothing, perfume, and aromatic oil to touch my body. I dressed myself in a torn garment. My garment was made of sackcloth. Now here, the stela turns from piety to power. Adad-guppi's son, Nabonidus, was not a natural heir to the throne. As far as we know, he was not descended from the royal line, and he came to power after a palace coup. But she had spent a lifetime at the Babylonian court, and says plainly that she placed her son in the service of the kings who came before him. The text on the stela quotes her as saying, "I pressed Nabonidus, my son, my own offspring, into the service of Nebuchadnezzar, son of Nabopolassar, and Neriglissar, king of Babylon. He served them day and night, and constantly did what was pleasing to them." And when her son does rise to the throne, the stela credits it not to politics, but to the moon god answering her prayers. "The god Sin, king of the gods, looked upon me and called Nabonidus, my only son, my own offspring, to be king. And he placed the kingship of the lands of Sumer and Akkad, and of all the lands from the borders of Egypt, the upper to the lower sea, in his hands." This is a stela that was carved for a king whose legitimacy was contested, presenting his mother as the pious vessel through whom the gods themselves chose him. Faith and propaganda, carved into the same stone. She lists the reigns she lived through by name and regnal year, and arrives at a number. From the time of Ashurbanipal, king of Assyria, until the 9th year of Nabonidus, king of Babylon, my son, he kept me alive for 104 good years. Modern historians who add up those same reign lengths get a figure closer to 102, not 104. This is likely a scribal miscount in antiquity, made across the chaotic years when the Assyrian Empire fell. The exact length of Ashurbanipal's reign is still debated by scholars, ending either around 630 or 627 BC. But whatever the exact total, the boast that follows is pretty extraordinary, and strikingly specific for an ancient text. She tells us, "My eyesight was sharp, my hearing surpassing, my hands and feet intact, my words well chosen, food and drink agreeable to me, my body healthy, and my spirit joyful. I saw my children's children up to the 4th generation, and I attained a very old age." Adad-guppi died in 547 BC, the 9th year of her son Nabonidus' reign, while he was away at the oasis of Tema in northern Arabia, himself worshipping Sin, the god his mother had devoted her life to. The text on the stela describes a funeral fit for a queen, a week of national mourning, with dignitaries summoned from across the empire. During the 9th year of Nabonidus, king of Babylon, fate carried her off, and Nabonidus, king of Babylon, her son, her own offspring, the beloved of his mother, prepared her corpse for burial with a beautiful garment, bright linen, an alu ornament of gold, good quality stones, a choice stone, precious stones, anointed her corpse with aromatic oil, and placed it in a secluded place. For 7 days and 7 nights they let their loud cries sound forth. Their garments were covered with dust. On the 7th day, the people of the land shaved off all of their hair. Though written in the form of an autobiography, Adad-guppi obviously couldn't have written about her own death and funeral. The stela was almost certainly commissioned by Nabonidus in honor of his mother, and erected in her hometown, within the great temple of the moon god, so that both posterity and perhaps the god himself would remember her lifelong devotion. Within a few years of Adad-guppi's death, the world that she had helped her son inherit was gone. Babylon fell to Cyrus of Persia, later known as Cyrus the Great, in 539 BC, and Nabonidus lost his throne. The dynasty she had served across a lifetime ended within a generation of her own passing, but her voice survived the empire. Across some 2,500 years, a woman born a subject of Assyria still tells us, in the first person, that she lived to see her son become the king of Babylon, that she held 4 generations of her descendants in her arms, and that she never once wavered in her devotion to the moon god. Whatever the politics behind it, that voice, a woman's voice, speaking of her own long life, is one of the rarest things to reach us from the ancient world. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this little story about this very pious and politically influential woman, and stay tuned for more tales from ancient Mesopotamia. Thanks for watching. I'd also like to thank the channel's patrons for making videos like this possible. These include, but are certainly not limited to, Grandkek69, Yap de Graaf, Pasta Frola, Michael Lewis, Daniel Allen, Danny Van Eck, Wanix TV, Robert Morgan, Strobex, Blitzkrieg, Jeremiah, Krishnan Murali, Frank, Tim Lane, Sebastian Notaro Correa, Michael Trudell, Leader Titan, Micah G, Nathaniel Gosden, John Scarberry, William O'Brien, Julie Aguirre, Andrew Bomer, Connor Dolson, Krish, Ben Van Rijsvik, David R., Stephen Ball, Gabe, Monty Grimes, Franz Robbins, Cyrus Meir, Dianastra, Nimrod Nir, Hypnosen, Brendan Redman, Faridun Darachanji, Jimu Daruwala, Enehida Debu, Gulistan Debu, Shanaz Kama, Farhad Kama, and all of the channel's patrons on Patreon for helping to support this and all future content. Check out the benefits to being a Patreon member, and if you'd like to join, feel free to click the link in the video description. You can also follow History with Sai on Instagram, Facebook, and X, as well as continue to listen to special audio programs on the History with Sai podcast. Thanks again, and stay safe.